Hi, story number 3 from the Weggie series of Vital Orbit. And we're getting a little bit closer to home. So my first two were Jack and Jeff, both from England. And now we're going to do Gary. I don't know if you're noticing a pattern here, but just as a point of interest, autoimmune disease hits 1 in 5 people. That's the statistic. So at least that was the statistic before COVID. I'm not sure if that number has changed. But before COVID, it was 1 in 5 people. So 20% of the population are affected by an autoimmune disease. And Wegener's, and 3 out of 4 of those people are females. So autoimmune disease predominantly affects females. However, this particular disease, which is Wegener's granulomatosis, predominantly affects males. So it's an anomaly within the autoimmune family because this is the one that actually affects more men. And I mean, this is not anything scientific, but most of the stories that I have are males. I don't know if it's maybe because more males are willing to share, but it's kind of an interesting correlation. Correlation does not necessitate causation, as we all learned in school, but it's an interesting point to ponder. So Gary is when this was written, I don't know if he still lives in Edmonton, but he was only 3.5 hours away from me. And Edmonton is where I go to see my doctor when I'm in the glue. So that's my center for medical help. So I will read Gary's story next. Gary. I was born in Edmonton, Alberta, and have lived all my life here. I am married and have 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl. I grew up in a family of 8 children, 4 of which are brothers and 3 sisters, all living in Edmonton. My father was born in Poland and my mother was born in Canada. We were raised as Catholics, and my kids are now raised as Catholics as well. I have played many sports since my teenage years, including baseball, basketball, volleyball, at a high level of competition. I have always been fit and in good shape. I currently work for Canada Post as a supervisor and have been working with them since 1986. 14 of those years I carried mail for Canada Post. I enjoy spending time with my family, all sports, and my work. My strongest trait is my competitiveness. 2. In September of 2007, I started with symptoms of a simple cold. Within a week to 10 days, that cold was progressing, and I tried several cold remedies with no results. In early October, my condition continued to get worse. At that time, I went to a Medicenter to see if they would be able to prescribe me something to help. I was given antibiotics, which also did not help. My condition now led to a sinus infection as well as an ear infection. This was now mid-October, and another visit to the Medicenter where I was prescribed a different antibiotic. This would be approximately 4 weeks since my first symptoms. At this time, my sinuses and ears were quite infected. I was having trouble breathing through my nose, and hearing was starting to be a problem. This led me to go to the U of A hospital in Edmonton. I was seen in an emergency ward where they diagnosed a possible viral infection and treated it with more antibiotics. Once again, I did not see results and my condition continued to worsen. I then scheduled an appointment with my family doctor, and he was troubled as to what was going on. But he did prescribe me with an even stronger antibiotic. My condition at that time was severe, as I had lost hearing in my left ear and partially in my right. I could not draw a breath of air through my nose and could only breathe through my mouth. At that time, I was not eating and had lost approximately 40 pounds. I tried the medication that was prescribed by my doctor for about a day, and this led me to vomit for the entire day. At that point in time, my wife scheduled another appointment with my family doctor, and at this appointment, he instructed her to take me to the emergency ward at the Grey Nuns Hospital. When we went to the Grey Nuns Hospital, I was admitted immediately due to my vitals being abnormal. The on-call doctor at this time started to run many different tests as he had no idea what he was dealing with. This doctor called for an ENT specialist who was on call to have a look at my nose and ears. This doctor confirmed that there was quite a bit of infection in the nose and ears and that this would need to be dealt with immediately. He then proceeded to put draining tubes in my ears to drain the infection. He was not sure of how they were going to deal with the sinus infection. After this was done, the doctors consulted with each other, including an intern, who at the time was studying a disease called Wegener's, and suggested that the disease could possibly explain my symptoms. I was sent to the U of A hospital by ambulance and immediately admitted there. I stayed there for 10 days, undergoing numerous tests and scans and blood work, all trying to determine if I did indeed have this unknown disease that the intern had suggested. I had a sinus operation to clear out the infection, and a biopsy was taken from my nose and sent away to confirm if Wegener's was what we were dealing with. The results came back, and it was confirmed that I did indeed have Wegener's. The treatment was started with the prednisone, a methotrexate, as well as folic acid. My disease specialist was Dr. Homick, and she had an assistant whose name was Dr. Katz, who eventually became and still is my rheumatologist. My ENT doctor is Dr. Ansari, and Dr. Katz is the doctor who quarterbacks my treatment, and in conjunction with Dr. Ansari has been treating me ever since I was first diagnosed. Aside from the first 6 months of prednisone, which we all know is a tough pill to swallow because of its many side effects, and the weekly injections of methotrexate, I have been able to handle the drugs quite well. I'm concerned, though, of the long-term effects of using the drugs. I also realize that for the moment, this is what's keeping me going and suppressing my disease. One of the side effects that I have been dealing with since my diagnosis is issues related to my nose. These issues consist of constant nosebleeds up to 3 times a day, and also having to constantly clear the nose. I have tried all recommendations from my ENT doctor, but it seems like this is something that I will just have to deal with. As you well know, we wake up sick and we go to bed feeling sick. We just need to get used to it and begin to take it as a new normal. Since I was first treated, I have had 1 cold and 1 bout with the flu. My immune system seems to react as it should and do the right thing. My disease specialist, Dr. Katz, who also diagnosed me in 2009 with the possibly of having fibromyalgia. He suggested that I do a 1-week course on how to deal with this. I'm not sure I do have it or not, but the course did give me important information on how to deal with some of the symptoms of Wegener's. Mainly, it taught me how to relax and prepare myself for sleep, with relaxation skills as well as core skills to help me with the aches and pains. Since being diagnosed, my life is quite a bit different. As you all know, after getting over the initial shock of this well-known disease, LOL, things change. I have tried to get back to my normal routine. Of course, this is not entirely possible because of the obstacles that are set out for us. I think that most important thing that I personally have going on for me is that I refuse to let the disease hold me back. My fitness level at the time of being diagnosed was probably what saved me, and I continually try to keep myself active, as I think this is one of the keys with dealing with this disease. I had returned to playing baseball within 6 months of diagnosis, and just recently have also returned to playing basketball. The aches and pains from these activities in conjunction with the disease make life challenging at best. Add to that, working full-time again, this leads to quite a distraction from the disease. I believe that this is a key tool that I have in dealing with Wegener's. My sports background gives me the never say die attitude and challenges me with finding a new way to beat this opponent. Still working on that one. Just getting up and doing something goes a long way, as opposed to sitting there and letting the disease control you. My advice, there's no use crying about it, as that changes nothing. It is what it is. Capital letters. How we deal with it is entirely up to us. Always challenge the disease, and you will be surprised how far you can go with it. For now, I'm winning, and maybe I can win long enough for a possible cure. First of all, my family, my wife, and kids who deal with this disease as much as I do. My niece, this was an answer to anybody, I think I had written the questions, and I'm interjecting here. But he's written numbers, and I believe that this was anybody that you'd like to acknowledge through the process. So he writes, first of all, my family, my wife and kids who deal with this disease as much as I do, my niece who injects me once a week for the last 4 years, my doctors who seem to be amazed at how I deal with this disease, and the intern at the beginning of all of this for whom I do not have a name that happened to be reading up on Wegener's and took a chance in suggesting the possibility of it. I would also like to thank most recently Marta and her Weggie's Unite website for giving us much needed support that brings us all together finally. Oh, I haven't read that. It's so sweet. Thank you so much. So I smirk throughout this, and it's because we all go through such similar experiences. It's wild. It's really wild. For me, it was also a first year intern who suggested to the night ER doc that I might have Wegener's, and he was part of a teaching group. And I'll give you my story after I finish reading all of these. But yeah, it's the guys who are fresh out of school who happen to be paying attention on Wegener's Day that end up being the ones who help us find a diagnosis, because Wegener's granulomatosis, or now it's even more of a mouthful, granulomatosis with polyangiitis. Who's going to remember that 20 years after they've been out of school? So yay for the new guys, and yay for the old guys who know how to deal with it, but we don't see them until later on in the game. And thank you for once again listening, and we'll be back with some more. Bye.